Bond was very much a creature of the 60s. He seemed to still be doing okay into the 70s, but, the 80s. The 80s were not nice. Continuing my selective viewing of James Bond films, we've arrived at the sampling selected for me of Timothy Dalton, this one being License to Kill. I haven't seen either of the Timothy Dalton Bonds before, and I don't really know a ton about them. Their reputation seems to be actually somewhat mixed. It really seems to depend on who you ask. They're either a low point or overhated. Seems to be the general consensus. Although the way in which they're a low point is different than something like, say, Moonraker is a low point. This is not an issue of excess camp. This is just not fitting in the decade, if I'm going to be completely honest. Or at least that was my takeaway from this film. I'll say that my feelings on Dalton himself, I feel bad that these were his only two. I feel like he should have been... It would have been nice if he could have gotten another crack at it. I feel a little bit about him like I do Paul McGann as the Doctor. You know, being in that TV movie and being really, really good, but what was going on around him not being great. Dalton was a good fit. He has a good, intense look. He's very good at that determined Bond look, like, okay, we're getting down to business now. But unfortunately, he doesn't get a lot to do, and he isn't really given the chance to be charming. He doesn't get a lot of quips. His interaction with women is... I'll get back to some of that. And the thing is, overall, this movie feels like it wants to be almost anything other than a Bond movie in a lot of ways, and yet at the same time doesn't have the bravery to be anything other than a Bond movie. So... like, how 80s can we make this? Well, let's see. Cuban drug kingpin, Miami Vice plotline and Suits. We've got an American actor of Italian descent playing Hispanic, a la Al Pacino and Scarface. We have shady Asian businessmen. We have ninjas. I couldn't believe it when the ninjas showed up. I'm like, seriously? We've got a yuppie finance guy. It's like, this thing is oozing 80s. And here's the thing. The initial setup, well, not the way they execute it. On paper, the setup of personal friend of Bond is, gets it in a bad way, and Bond goes on revenge not sanctioned by his bosses, and he has to go rogue to do it. That, on paper, not only is that a neat idea, it's a good way to shake things up and to break away from the formula, to do something a bit different, and to have Bond be in a situation where, like, this is the first time where what he wants to do, because Bond rather frequently gets to kill who he wants to kill because it's in the line of duty. In this case, the guy he wants to take down, it's not his jurisdiction, it's not his fight. So the job that normally enables him to kill the people he wants to kill now is preventing him. And so him breaking away from that and going on his own, that could be really interesting. But despite having a core plot that seems designed to break the formula of Bond films, this thing still sticks really weirdly, rigidly to the formula that it set itself up to be able to leave behind. The villain still has a massively audacious base of operations. There's still the ridiculous death traps. There's still gearing up with Q, even though Bond is now, like, not even officially an agent anymore. Like, look, and to be fair, Desmond Llewellyn seemed like he's had a ton of fun in this scene, and as a result, Q feels like he's having a lot of fun getting to get out of the office, be in the field a little bit. And I did enjoy that, but, like, for the setup that you had, Bond goes rogue, what is Q even doing here? Like, that, it wrote itself a check to do something vastly different, and yet wouldn't let itself drop the tropes that are maintained by the old formula. It's a very at war with itself kind of film. Now, I said on paper the setup is a good idea. What they actually did... If you're going to have Bond go on a mission of revenge, and you're not bringing back Blofeld for him to have proper revenge for Tracy as opposed to, just dropping somebody whose face we'd never see down a chimney stack, then having somebody go after one of the select few recurring characters is your best bet. M, Moneypenny, Q. But if it's any of them, well then, the full force of MI6 is going to be behind him. If he's going to go rogue, it's got to be somebody else. So Felix Leiter, his CIA contact, becomes the obvious choice. And so that is what happens. They bring back an actor who had played Felix before, but I guess they had somebody else play Felix in the previous film. I looked into this a little bit. I guess whoever they got for the previous film just didn't have good on-screen chemistry with Dalton, so they didn't want to bring him back. So they brought back, I think the guy who played Leiter in Live and Let Die. So a guy in his 60s, and talking to Timothy Dalton, who was in his 30s, I think 40s at most, and talking to him like he's a contemporary. He's like, okay. But on paper, bad guys come for Felix. Okay. Why'd you have to kill his new wife? And more to the point, why did you have to imply rape of her on top of that? There's absolutely no need for it. It's gross and it's pointless. Because Bond is sufficiently motivated by what happens to Felix. Felix doesn't even die. So, they could have just jumped him on his own. There was no need. There was no need to kill Della. It's gross and it's cruel. And I did not like that at all. It was completely unnecessary. And the female characters in general are out of whack in this thing, even by Bond standards. Because we basically, once Della is unceremoniously killed and probably raped, strongly implied, we're left with two main female characters. There's Pam, who is a pilot, and the movie can't seem to decide if she is capable or a little bit of an airhead. And it keeps flopping back and forth from scene to scene, where she'll go from being well-equipped to a situation to handling Bond's gadgets right after she's been in the room while his Q explains that this stuff is all dangerous and almost frying Bond with a laser. What is it? Can she hold her own or is she a moron? And it doesn't seem to know. And then there is the woman who is the girlfriend of the villain's Sanchez. His girlfriend, who I don't know why she's here, other than obligation of giving Bond somebody else to bed so that he can have more than one girl over the course of this thing. Because I guess you can't have him boink his friend's new bride before she gets raped and murdered. Oh my god. Anyways, I can't figure this woman out. She kind of helps Bond, but she also doesn't really seem like she leaves or betrays Sanchez. She just kind of helps Bond a little, but also tells Bond to go and doesn't want Bond to save her and get her out of the situation. But why is she helping? I cannot figure out what this character's deal is. And the thing is, there's an early indication, because we know Sanchez beats her and abuses her, and she uses a fairly classic line amounting to "I shouldn't have made him mad," which, is cliche as it is, has its roots in how actual abusive relationships can formulate. So the thing is, I feel like her weird middle ground behavior could have been explained if the film was willing to explore somebody with this kind of trauma and damage and abuse, and how that, if she did at some point, possibly even still does, actually still have feelings for Sanchez, how this could make for erratic behavior, but the film doesn't actually want to delve into this. So to say that that's what justifies it, that's headcanon. The film does not tackle that at all. That's just the only thing I can think of that could have possibly explained why she behaves in the weird way she does. Oh, add on to the list of 80s stuff, televangelist. Oh my god. So, Sanchez as a villain is fine. We've got a baby Benicio del Toro as a henchman. He has actually a nice menace to him in this. He doesn't get a lot to do before he gets ground up very bloodily. And actually, the violence in this in general, this is a shockingly bloody movie. Like, a guy gets stuck in a compression chamber and blows up, and you see like the blood splat on the window. It's kind of gross, this movie. And Felix gets chomped on by a shark, and that's not the most graphic thing I've ever seen, but it ain't tame either. Again, this thing, I think it's trying to revel in the age in which it is made, but it won't shed all the stuff that brought the franchise this far. And the fact that Bond is theoretically on a mission of personal revenge makes a lot of these things, first of all, logistically not make sense, but even tonally weird. It's weird that on a mission of personal revenge, he stops to seduce a pilot. That's weird. Like, when he's just doing his job, he's going to take his pleasure where he can, but this isn't work. This is personal. Focus up, dude. Like, that and the gearing up with Q scene, again, one of the better ones of latter-day Bond, I would argue, at least with Desmond Llewellyn. He's really good, but it totally doesn't fit. That Bond is getting geared up and outfitted and getting all this gear. Like, he should be, working off whatever he can scrape together, but he's rolling up with millions of dollars in high-tech gadgets. This thing, it's trying to be contradictory things, and it can't find a way to marry them, so it just mashes them together. And with weird, out-of-place, random camp moments, like a guy trying to stab Bond with a big stuffed swordfish. And that gets lingered on unnecessarily. Underwater action scenes have not gotten any less slow or boring. There's a lot of there's a truck chase, which isn't bad, and the explosions are actually quite impressive. Although, he pops a wheelie in a 16-wheeler truck. What? Like, when that happened, I'm just like, okay. Because that's something that Roger Moore's Bond could get away with. Not here. Not Miami Vice gritty drug deal gone bad version of Bond. Like, no. What? No. This thing. It so desperately wants to be of its time, but it can't shake its own baggage. That's License to Kill. Kind of a mess. I'm going to be honest. So, don't know when I'll get to the next one, but we've got Brosnan coming up next, which, I have nostalgic feelings for, because that was the point at which I actually started watching Bond, was when Brosnan took on the role. So, we'll see how that goes, but for right now, License to Kill, what did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Usual stuff like share, subscribe. I got a Patreon, which pays my bills, and is also how you can commission me to review stuff. It's how I was commissioned to review this. But you also don't have to. Take a relaxed attitude around here, so just come on back next time you need a break.